Stevie Nicks is wearing Zara by John Galliano, which is insane. I never thought I'd literally be saying that. But essentially, this is the first look at John Galliano's Zara we have seen publicly. So this is very, very interesting. Extremely interesting, actually. This is very John Galliano. It's also very Stevie Nicks. It's very like Dior in a way, because Dior likes to have loads of volume and corsetry and the crinoline and the layers and the fabrics. This look is very Dior. It's also very Stevie Nicks. And I just thought it was really random because it's like, what relation does this have to Zara's customer base or Zara's audience? And what does this say about Zara's strategy as a whole moving forward? Do they want John Galliano to be sort of a, red carpet designer for Zara now? Do they want John Galliano to design more red carpet looks? What exactly is the wider strategy concerning this look? I'm really confused when it comes to this look, to be honest. So very strange, very, very strange. But I do think there's an important conversation there because I talk about this all the time, and the fact that fast fashion now is changing and slowly going into that mid-tier market because the fast fashion brands realize we cannot compete on price with Temu and Shein. So we need to start changing our branding and repositioning ourselves higher up the totem pole in terms of market segments in fashion. So that's why H&M has been doing a lot more collaborations. They've been working with a lot more designers. They've been throwing massive runway shows in London. You have Zara, who have been working with really massive designers and really current designers that are their names are popping right now. You have the likes of Willy Chavarria. You have the likes of John Galliano, of course, who has a longer term partnership. In the past, we've seen Stefano Pilati have a collection with Zara. We've seen Samuel Ross, formerly of A Cold War, have a collection with Zara. So this is all their bid to be seen as more luxury than the typical fast fashion that we associate Zara with, right? So I'm quite curious to see what exactly this red carpet strategy is about and if they have a bigger plan for the red carpet. And I think it was very telling that Marta Ortega was literally on the red carpet. I think that says a lot about Zara and their plans to move into a more luxurious space. Because think about it. This Stevie Nicks look was showcased side by side with couture garments that cost millions. Side by side with all these massive luxury brands like Chanel, like Schiaparelli. So there's definitely a strategy to it. There must be. And for people that don't know, Marta Ortega is literally the chairwoman of Inditex. And obviously Inditex owns Zara. So it was fascinating. And I think John Galliano designed her look as well. I can't remember, but I think so. So yeah, they were very busy on the Met Gala night for sure. It's like the Mad Hatter exhibiting Westwood Anglomanias, and that's funny. Also, Zara collabs allergic to colors. It seems so. They tend to be very black, white, grey, navy. It's very fascinating. A top hat with a single feather and a second empire dress in cheap fabric. Unforgivable. Luke, this is your GOAT. John Galliano is your GOAT. Also, and it's crazy because you have to think, right, with this look, it was John Galliano who designed the clothes and Stephen Jones who made the hat. These are two heavyweights of the fashion industry when we're talking about some of the most highly revered designers of the past 50 years. And they're both working on a Zara project. It's dystopian. The end times are near. We are close to the end times. I still don't get what positioning Zara wants to achieve because they look all over the place. Yeah, 100%. 100%. The Zara and also the Gap Studio look very interesting. Yeah, Gap is another brand that is using this red carpet strategy to try and recontextualize what it represents. Zac Posen has kind of been building out a lot of that. So yeah, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But yeah, I remember quite a while ago, it was months ago, when I reacted to an article in BOF where he essentially had an interview talking about all his plans for Gap Studio, and a big part of it was the red carpet side of it. So that's definitely a big focus. Zara is the brand that catered to the bump away from fast fashion before the trend, in my opinion. I'm excited. Yeah, I mean that is true. Zara was always seen as the brand that it's fast fashion, but it was seen as higher level than all the other fast fashion brands. It was also seen as more fashion forward than a lot of the other fast fashion brands. But Zara has always been like a copycat brand. Anytime something is trending, you expect it to be in Zara a few weeks later. The Dries Van Noten sneakers were trending. All of a sudden, you have the Zara version of the Dries Van Noten sneakers and they're doing campaigns. You also have the likes of, like, I remember when Kanye West, for example, his brand Yeezy was huge with those tonal colors. Zara were duping everything he was making and that stuff was selling out. They duped the Yeezy boot. So Zara has always been a brand that they look at what is happening in high fashion and they essentially just give you cheaper alternatives. That has always been their strategy. Wasn't COS in the same tier? Was that just my personal bias? No, I wouldn't put COS in the same tier as Zara. I think Zara has always been seen as a slightly higher tier than COS, if I'm being honest. I don't think they're seen on the same level. I don't think so. That Yeezy era has continued to persist. Yeah, 100%. Honestly, when whatever Galliano will do gets released, I'll have to leave social media to dodge all the don't walk, run to Zara videos. That's funny. That's hilarious. But yeah, I just thought that was very fascinating. This whole Zara conversation, this fast fashion on the red carpet. What does that mean for, red carpet looks moving forward? Just, fascinating conversation. And talking about Zara, another person who was wearing Zara on the night was Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny, like I said, very similar to Heidi Klum. Bad Bunny's look and prosthetics, because he's essentially supposed to depict an aging man, and that was the whole point of it. It was done by Mike Marino, and it's essentially this idea of, the aging man as a work of art, which a lot of people found interesting. I think the prosthetics are cool. I think there's a bigger conversation to have around Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny has been under fire, I guess, or there's been a lot of controversy for Bad Bunny working with, fast fashion brands. The big conversation, right, was the Super Bowl performance he did, where he was wearing custom Zara for his Super Bowl thing. So I wonder, what is Bad Bunny's deal with Zara? Is he like the face of Zara or something? He seems to wear a lot of Zara custom looks. So yeah, the prosthetics to me were the more interesting part, and just the aging man as art. I thought that was really interesting. The look, less interesting. And the craziest thing I saw online was they were saying that, he's referencing Charles James's famous bustle dress from 1947. And I'm just like, that is a stretch if I've ever seen one. Like, he's wearing damn near a tuxedo with a pussy bow. That's it. Like, I don't know how you can say just because Charles James's dress has a bow. Like, let me show you guys the dress now. All of a sudden now he's referencing a Charles James dress. I think some people, and I remember learning about this when I studied fashion journalism at university, a lot of people in fashion, they do things that aren't very well considered. And then they try to add the consideration after the fact. Like, I'm not going to just be like, just because it has a pussy bow doesn't mean you can start saying it's inspired by a Charles James dress and like, oh, it's so similar just because there's a bow. If that's the case, that means it's also inspired by every Dior dress ever. It's inspired by every dress in the Rococo era. Like, let's not be silly here. Beautiful gowns to the reach, yeah. Zara is a Spanish company. No, I think it's him trying to relate maybe to his core fan base. I feel like a lot of his fan base shops there, so he is maybe supporting them. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess that's one angle to look at it from. But I do just think it's interesting considering everything I've said about Zara's overall strategy concerning trying to be seen as a more premium brand. So I do think it benefits Zara to have someone like Bad Bunny who's so well loved and is so famous and is so in touch with the younger generation to be seen as, a muse for the brand. It's kind of giving it a cool edge that maybe it wouldn't have if Bad Bunny's face wasn't attached to the brand. So, yeah. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.